This week I made a few mistakes. That's it. That's the hook for this video. I did make a few mistakes, but I also made a few really solid decisions that led to a week of adventures in a mountain range that I had no idea existed until an hour before I arrived. I don't know what I expected the geography to be like in northern New Mexico, but this certainly wasn't it. Deciding to go up into Carson National Forest before May 1st was probably not the smartest decision I've ever made, but also I had no way of knowing how truly desolate and mountainous this area was until I arrived. And although I probably wouldn't do it again this early in the year, I also am really glad that it happened the way that it did because, gosh, was this week magical. I'm currently on the side of a road trying to figure out where to go. I just came down the mountain this morning from the campsite that I was at last week. I spent the morning doing chores, and now it's like 2:30? Is it really? Shoot. Now it's 2:30, and I'm trying to figure out where I'm gonna spend the next week. You would think that I would plan this on my days off, but I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go up to Carson National Forest. Apparently there are some hot springs, which the idea of a hot spring excites the crap out of me. And also there are some free campsites in some meadows. And if you know anything about me, I'm a sucker for some meadows. I'm trying not to get my hopes up, but this kind of sounds like my own personal heaven. I just had to pull over because of this. This is something that I never thought that I would find this far south. This is something that I never thought that I would find in New Mexico. Every phone call that I've been on with my friends and my therapist, I keep saying, I miss the mountains, I miss the mountains, I miss the wide open meadow mountains. And when I drove up here, no part of me thought that this was what I was going to get.
Thought I saw it in your pocket, need some lint and cigarettes. I got 57 songs and every one of them's a blues. I had $57, but I spent it all on you.
Here, I'm happy. Hi, Bab. Okay. I need food. On this first evening in the meadow, I made a super simple oatmeal dinner before going outside to watch the sunset. At one of the security checkpoints on my way up to the National Forest, one of the guys mentioned that it was going to be a nice warm night up in these mountains, and I kind of didn't believe him, but he was right. It was a perfect evening temperature-wise, and it was warm enough to spend some time outside getting some shots of the sky too, which I was super excited about. Holy heck. The reviews weren't kidding. This is gorgeous. I'm so alone up here. Like, I don't think I've ever been this isolated ever. And I'm not scared somehow. I think I'm just gonna take a time lapse of the moon because I don't really feel like getting a perfect shot at all right now. Not that I ever do. When do I ever try to take a perfect shot? But okay, so I do have a film lens on here, so I don't know what that's gonna do to the image, but we can try, right? Oh my god. Oh my gosh, this is so cool.
Hello. Hi. Good morning.
Holy criminy, it's cold. We're going to the hot spring nearby. And by nearby, I think I'm like 20 minutes away. We're gonna drive to the trailhead and then hike 4 miles to get to some hot springs. I'm tired. I don't know why I'm doing this. This is the time in the morning where I'm regretting everything. I think it's right here. It's gonna be fine.
Feel something buzzing. Sometime again.
I'm not gonna lie, I am a little bit scared. I'm just in the middle of nowhere, no service, no people around. It's fine, but whew, gosh, it's cold. It was around the time that the world started getting lighter that I realized this hike wasn't 4 miles to the hot spring, it was a little over 5. I did consider turning back because I didn't pack any food and I had an oddly heavy pack with water and winter gear and my computer. But after a few minutes of considering my options, I decided to press onwards further into the forest. It's about to be 7 and we're halfway there. Although the hike was long and cold, it still felt like all of a sudden the hot springs just appeared. Being so alone in an area like this is a feeling that I don't know I'll ever get used to. How something like this exists in the first place, how lucky I am to live in a world where coordinates to places like these are posted online, how lucky I am to be able to experience this type of thing with nobody around for hours. Without fail, these types of moments just feel surreal, and I don't know if that'll ever change. I did not need to get here this early. There's nobody out here. This was so worth it. 10 out of 10 recommend. Not that I'm gonna share the hot spring that I came to, but 10 out of 10. Also, Finn's being such a good boy. I've just wrapped him up in my jackets and he's completely chillin'. I was worried about him the most, I think, because it's really cold up here. It's probably like 34. It'll probably be like 50 or 60 once the sun hits us, but right now it's cold. You wanna go walk back to the car? Let's go back home. Let's go back home. Yeah? It is windy today. What are you looking at? I know you want to go outside. It might be too windy. It's cold outside. So, mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes this week, most of which aren't going to make it in this video. But this one mistake, I feel like in order to tell the story accurately, I have to put it in. But in order to tell this next part of the story, I have to go back in time to the first day. The day that I drove into this national forest. On my first day, I had driven a little over 2 hours from Santa Fe to Carson National Forest. And once I got pretty far into the mountains, I ended up on a dirt road. A 1-lane dirt road. To put it bluntly, I had no business whatsoever being on this dirt road. The first mile was okay. I noticed that my cell service completely disappeared the minute that I hit the dirt road, which is typically the moment where I decide to turn around. I don't like being in the middle of nowhere with no service, but there was nowhere to turn around and I was pretty excited about the coordinates that I had, so I just kept moving forward. Around mile 2, the road started getting kind of muddy. It felt like I kept alternating between the road being super muddy and then completely dry, depending on where the sun was able to hit the road. Where the trees were taller, the ground was super slick and slippery, to the point where the van was definitely doing a little dancey dance. It felt like driving on ice. I should not be on this road without 4x4. Holy cannoli. It was stressful and loud, and at that point I knew that I shouldn't be on that road, but there was nowhere to turn around, and I knew that there was no way that I was going to be able to back up 2 miles in the mud, so I just kept moving forward. I made it about 3.5 miles in. I was about a half mile away from the campsite when it got really bad. Up until this point, the road was pretty bad, but we'd been going uphill, which in my head is less stressful on the way in because I knew that no matter what, once I was able to turn around, it was going to be easier to go downhill and get out than it would have been if I was going downhill on the way in. But all of a sudden, the road started going downhill, and the trees started to get thicker and taller, and the road started to get really, really muddy. I immediately started freaking out, but I was still moving forward. I was driving forward, freaking out in my head. I was worried, and I was so in my head that I didn't even notice when it felt like all of a sudden I remembered where I was, and all of a sudden I realized what was in front of me. A part of the road had slid out, creating this hole in the ground, so big that I knew that it would screw up my van if I hit it, so I knew that I couldn't hit that. And the other side of the road was just a complete mud pit, and so I only had a couple of seconds to react. And I wasn't using my brakes on this road because I was treating the mud like ice. I don't know if that's the right way to do it, but I was just not using my brakes, and instead I was shifting down. And so within a few seconds, I downshifted, I braced myself, and I just went through it. Once I got to the other side of the road, I knew to the core of my being that I screwed up. Not gonna cry. It's not a big deal. Oh my god, I'm not gonna cry. Okay. I ended up walking back to the worst part of the road. I realized that there was only really one really bad part. Most of it looked worse than it was, but there was one part of the road where I knew that I was going to have to use momentum to get through it, but I knew that if I went too fast, then I could very easily slide off the road. I think the scariest part was that I was just so alone. Like, if I had been with somebody else, I think I would have, like, had the brains to be like, okay, I have chains, I can put them on and use them to get traction and be fine. Thank God I had my Garmin with me. This is not sponsored, but oh my gosh, I will never hike again. I will never go into a place with no service again without my Garmin. It is the only thing that kept me from having a severe meltdown, and frankly, if I had not had it, I think I would have been in a really unsafe position. So thank you to the patrons who literally bugged me for months to get one. Next morning, I did make it out. It was actually kind of anticlimactic, but I basically just woke up, got in the driver's seat, started driving, shaking, got to the muddy part, kept moving forward. I kept a steady 7-mile-an-hour pace to keep the momentum. I did do a lot of sliding. It was exactly what I feared would happen, except it stopped right when it needed to. So like, I did slide, corrected, and then I was able to go between the hole and the mud, and then I kept just enough momentum and my wheels were spinning, but I did get to the top of the hill. After all of that, I'll tell you one thing. I would rather go through 3 Christmas Eve blizzards than ever have to see this muddy road again in April. Although maybe not, because I actually did get stuck in that blizzard, and I did not get stuck on this muddy road. Whatever. Anyways, after I got off this road, I made it to the Land of Cell reception, and I went ahead to find myself a really cool campsite way closer to the Hot Springs trailhead with other humans nearby. I think tonight I'm gonna try to make salmon. This might be TMI, but as much as I love toying around with like the rice and the all vegetable diet, my digestive system, and so I googled foods that are easy on your digestive system, and salmon came up, so I think I'm gonna try to make a salmon rice spinach dish. But I've never cooked fish before, so I'm a little bit nervous. It'll be fine. As long as it's cooked through, it might suck, but it'll be fine. Have I lost my sense of smell, or does it really not smell like fish in here? Oh, the salmon's already cooked. It's smoked salmon. What does that mean? Does that mean that I can heat it up? That's definitely smoked salmon. Yep. It's not bad though, honestly. Summer is around the corner. I can feel it. You know, this last month, March, have I been alone for a whole month? I've been alone for over a month, and I'm not lonely. Something's very weird about that. So I got a therapist, and I think that's helping. Like, I really think that talking to somebody every single week is very beneficial to my mental health. Also, I've been, like, having phone calls with my friends every week. Also, this is super random and nobody cares, but I finally got my work week under 44 hours a week, and I get to take weekends off again. I don't know how I lasted so long. Like, it's no wonder to me that I wanted to quit YouTube. It's no wonder to me that this lifestyle wasn't sustainable. Like, I was not living a sustainable life. Now that I am, it's just so goofy to see that I waited so long to be respectful to myself, I guess. I think tomorrow, I don't know if I'm gonna film it, I probably won't. I think I'm gonna drive to Taos, where Christian and Nathaniel are, because although I just said that I haven't been lonely, I'd like to keep it that way. So, this is actually kind of good. Please leave. Hello, dear moth. Please GTFO. Phineas, I can hear you breathing heavily. I did not know that he was so close to my head. This looks like bear country. Are there bears in New Mexico? Hey Siri. We are farmers. Bum-ba-dum-ba-ba-ba. Massively freaked out. This winter was the longest winter ever. I can feel summer. I can feel it. It's palpable. It's around the corner.